And we're live. What's up? It is Monday, May 3rd, 3 days into the month. And man, we are coming to you live after back-to-back losses. I ain't used to this. Let's do this though. Let's try and get some people in the chat. And I'll tweet this out now. I'll tweet it from Talkin Nets and then from my account. And before we go live, we'll get some people in the chat for questions and for like a live studio audience vibe. I'm sure there's some notification squad people in here. I see 4 people pulled up. That means they got the noti on. That means they know to pull up on Keith and Hudson for Talkin Nets live. Now we've done a few of these live where I think we're going to keep it. I think we're going to keep doing these live like this. So 1 second, let me tweet out the link from Talkin Nets. And we're out. Recording live. Boom. Put a link there too. Hudson, say something, man, so they know you're alive.
I am alive. I was waiting. I'm trying to make sure that my audio is all good. Got to make sure the Audacity is ready to pick up everything, so we can make sure that this episode goes out nicely. Get everything moving. Good. Weird vibes though. 2-loss episode. Haven't done one of those in I can't tell you the last time. Ridiculous.
Yeah, 2 losses, and we're gonna talk about it. This is episode 100, and I think in my mind I wanted to have like a ceremonial like celebration, but this really ain't the time to celebrate. So we'll keep it 100 on this episode, and we'll talk about your Brooklyn Nets, the state of the Nets, and just, I don't know, thoughts, feelings, and maybe have some people throw some stuff out in the chat to talk about as we talk about these 2 games. Okay. Links are out. We will start in 3 minutes, and this episode will probably be 40 minutes, no longer than 40, because it ain't fun to talk about losing, especially when you're losing with your arguably the best player on the bench, and we can't keep making excuses now. We can't keep leaning on, excuses now. It's risky business, the game we're playing, but I will save it for the pod. That is out on Twitter and retweeted. And I see some people in the chat. Jabril, what up, kid? Appreciate the support. Jabril is definitely Noti Squad. He's definitely Notification Gang. He's definitely in there with us.
Absolutely. It's good to see. But no, this is a weird episode. Not looking forward to talking about 2 losses. Not looking forward to like having to make excuses. That's unfortunate. I don't know. A lot of bad vibes. A lot of people in Nets world are feeling too hot right now. And I feel like a lot of people are overreacting a little bit. So I know we got stuff to talk about that.
Yeah.
I see we got Robert asking a question in the chat. I will talk about that on the podcast. I don't want to, before we go like live when we start doing our segments and everything, we can hit on that. But that is a question that I have an answer to. So I'm looking forward to answering that one.
All right. Well, we're about to go live in a minute. I'm now recording on my end for the pod. Let's see. Am I recording on my end for the pod? No, I'm not. Let me check that again. Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. I don't think it's recognizing my mic again.
But yeah, if you guys all want to put questions in the chat, if you have any, we can have them like know what they are for when we do the episode. So if you want to start thinking about those, putting them in, we're trying to get some fan engagement going, because we know Nets fans, they got a lot of things to say about these last 2 games. Our mentions are filling up with Nets fans thinking that we're being too optimistic, talking about your Brooklyn Nets, saying that we shouldn't
We're gonna keep it real. We're gonna keep it real
as we are.
Nah, I said a couple episodes back, I think it was 98, that we were number 1 and not worried. Now we're not number 1, but we're not worried. we're gonna keep it real though. The way that the Nets are playing this whole thing is kind of making me think that like we might be a little too cocky. We might be a little bit too sure of ourselves. And there's not much runway here for experimenting. There's not much more runway. Like we need to see some things going into the playoffs.
I mean, what, 7 games left?
Yeah, but they're not, and we already know they're not gonna show us anything, because showing us anything, that's showing the league something. So, all right, I am set up here. Let me check my mic again. Testing, mic check. Check 1, check 2. No, for some reason it's not picking up my fucking mic. See, sure 1. Okay. Will this one work for me now? No. Well,
Keith is always rocking with the technical difficulties.
Bro, I just have so much that goes on this one MacBook, and it's like shifting gears is always an issue. And I'm hoping I don't have to restart my fucking computer right now, which I might have to do, and that would suck. All right, I got one more trick here. Okay, we got the mic. It's being recognized here. Okay.
Love it. Chat's filling up with questions. Keep them coming. We will answer every single one of them on the episode.
Definitely
we can use that to kind of filibuster while Keith figures things out. But we should be starting in about a minute now, right, Keith?
Yeah. I just don't know why I can't get GarageBand to recognize my mic over here, but I'm working on it. Because like we can't. The whole thing is what you're seeing us do is record the podcast live, and I can't rip the audio from this video, so I have to have this set up, which it was set up, and now it's not. So bear with me, folks. Part of working in tech is tech difficulties. Okay, new audio track. It's got the right mic set up. I'm not getting anything out of there. Boo, this sucks. I think I have to restart the computer, and that's not what I'm trying to do right now.
We're not rocking with that.
Nah, because then that's going to be a waste of a live stream. Let me quit GarageBand. Don't save. Let me come back. Let me just try and do an empty project. Choose. Create. And see if this works now. Am I getting anything? I'm not getting anything on this GarageBand program right now, and this is super frustrating.
You might got to go to if you go to preferences, then you can select your audio input. We did have to do that one time, I remember.
I have it selected. Output device. Okay, let's see. Maybe I gotta change the.
Yeah.
Well, so there's two things, because right now I'm plugged into my microphone with my headphones, not plugged into my MacBook, and that is because there was a little bit of a delay the first time. Let me try this now, see if this works. Yes. All right. So what it was that I had to change the settings of where the audio was coming out, and now we're good to go. So give me 1 minute now. I'd rather just record into the Talkin Nets layout that we have. That should have fixed the problem, and we'll get this thing moving. Keeping it 1,000, episode 100. And are we good now? I think we're good now. We are good now. So let's do it.
All right. Let's get it, Keith. Let's count us in. Let's go.
All right. Am I squared up? Can y'all see me? Can y'all see the James Harden? Yeah, I'm good. All right.
I'm good to go. Let's get it.
Man, Talkin Nets, this is a milestone. 100 episodes. That's crazy. I remember episode 1 through 100. I remember Hudson coming along around episode 8. Remember Hudson and I doing a Kobe Bryant tribute episode around episode 13. And fast forward through all of those other numbers, and here we are. But We ain't got a special guest. We don't got no celebration or ceremonies planned. We're going to keep it 100 on episode 100. Maybe we'll keep it 1,000 talking about your Brooklyn Nets. Back-to-back losses. The Nets lose to the Blazers. We'll talk about it. The Nets lose the first game of a 2-game back-to-back series. Well, not back-to-back, but 2-game series in Milwaukee against the Bucks. So right now, there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of people not necessarily panicking, but wondering and thinking about the Nets and the Nets' chances. So this is Talkin Nets. We're going to talk about it. Without further ado, let's get it. Doom, 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 doom. That's not how the beat goes, but that's like a makeshift beat. Okay, and bringing us right back in. Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talkin Nets, episode 100, where we're about to keep it 8 more than 92. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn joining you on a Monday afternoon. Most of you will hear this podcast on Tuesday morning, but some of you are watching live on YouTube right now. We've got people in the chat. We've got questions in the chat. But first, Hudson Flynn, say what's up to the people.
Man, what's up, everybody? It's a shame we don't have better vibes when it comes to what the Nets are doing going into episode 100. But look, we hit triple digits. We're about to roll into the playoffs, 7 games left in the season. And I'm excited. I can't wait. I just can't wait for the playoffs to come. We're going to be talking about a Bucks game that had a playoff atmosphere. And we're going to be talking about the Nets and some of the problems people are saying they have and some of the ways to fix them and what we think about what's going on here. So I'm excited for it. I think everyone's got a lot to say about the Nets right now. So we got to be there to step up to the plate and, show our opinions.
And control the narratives. I saw a post today that I put on our Instagram with James Harden. It was a StatMuse post, and it also prompted me to make the cover for this episode, James Harden, wear my James Harden hoodie, because this tweet read, the Nets are 27-7 with James Harden since the trade. They're 9-9 without him. Oh, no. What is going on in the Nets world? The Brooklyn Nets are 9-9, a 500 club without James Harden, who they mortgaged their future for and gave away all their young stars for. Hudson, why are they twisting narratives out here? Why are they making stuff up? Why are they trying to make something seem like it's not?
I mean, I don't even know if they're twisting narratives. I usually don't like what they're saying, but honestly, this fact, it tracks, right? James Harden, when he came to the Nets, when he was playing on the Nets, was the leading MVP candidate. He was the best player in the National Basketball Association. He was the 2-time Eastern Conference Player of the Month. He was that dude. There's a reason the Nets had that record without him. And that includes a lot of games where he didn't have Kyrie and definitely didn't have KD for most of those games. So, as much as it's a narrative, as much as it's, oh, look, the Nets can't win without him, there's a reason. There's a reason they gave up all those assets in that trade. There's a reason that the Nets did what they did, what Sean Marks did, what he did to get him onto this team, because he's important. And look, that's really what the focus of all of Nets Twitter, all of the NBA is really going to be on for the next little while here until he does come back, because we've got 7 games left until the playoffs. And we need James Harden back for the playoffs. I'm not trying to say that the Nets are not a phenomenal team without him. I'm not trying to say that they're not a super team without him. None of that. The Nets should still be favored in every playoff series without him. But there's a reason we have the best player in the league on our team, and we need him to play. We need him to go. We need him to be ready to go for round 1 of the playoffs. I know he's itching to get that monkey off his back, to show that he's capable of winning a championship, of leading a team to a championship. And Keith, we just need to do it. And so regardless of what people are saying, all that matters at this point is making sure he's back on the court and is ready to lead the Nets to a championship. Because if he's playing, no one in the league's coming close to stopping the Nets.
And we know that, and we believe that, but we need to see that. And, this is the news and narratives part of Talkin Nets. We like to kick off the episodes and get the narratives out the way and the news out the way. So if this is your first time listening, this is what we do before we go into game talk. And I wanted to lead with this James Harden narrative, because it's like this to me, right? The Nets don't care. Like, the Nets are doing this to themselves. The Nets play these games with the minutes restrictions, no matter what the circumstance. The Nets will put guys on the bench in crunch time, no matter the circumstance. And they're extra cautious. And I can't blame them because of how high the stakes are. I can't blame them because of the embarrassment of riches that we have, trying to make sure that those guys are available to cross the finish line. But when I see a post about how the Nets are performing without Harden, right? Okay, 27-7 with Harden. Yeah, he was looking like the MVP before he got hurt. He was looking like the best player in the NBA before he got hurt. He came here and it was an immediate impact. And then when you see the Nets are 9-9 without him, a 500 team, it's like, okay, well, the Nets are not putting, like, I think we've even heard Nash say, like, if it was playoffs right now, Harden would be playing. If it was playoffs right now, KD would be full go. And when you look at these games like we just saw, and like I just mentioned, right, I think Blake just played his first back-to-back last week. He's still on a minutes restriction. They're extra cautious with him. He wasn't in the game against the Bucks late. Why? Because of how many minutes. Then when you look at KD didn't play in the Blazers game. Why? Because it was a back-to-back. We played the Pacers Thursday in Indiana, flew back home to New York, and had to face the Blazers, a good team with all-stars, Hall of Famers, and we didn't play KD because we're being extra cautious. So some of those losses, like one of those losses came when we played against the Sixers with the tiebreaker on the line, and I was saying, yo, let's send a message. Play everybody. Play KD. Let's try and beat these guys. That's not what the Nets are trying to do. The Nets organization literally lives in their own world, Nets world. They don't care about anybody else, like fans or journalists or talking heads. What you say, they have a plan and they're executing their plan and they're going to stick with that plan. And us as fans, we just got to be patient and we got to be hopeful. But I'm going to keep it real with you, Hudson. Can I be real for a second? Can I keep it real with you?
Go right ahead.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried because I know how much power we have, but I am extremely like, okay, like I'm real. I'm not worried, but the reality is if you're this cocky rolling into the playoffs, right? Where now we're pretty sure we're not going to see Harden in these last 7 games. The word on the street is that he's just going to show up and play in the playoffs. I'm not worried about the Nets advancing. I'm not worried about the Nets seeding. I'm not worried about the Nets winning the whole thing. But I know how shit can blow up in your face. Shit can blow up in your face if you're not prepared. You fail to prepare to fail. And I think that we should be using at least a couple of these games left as a runway for the playoffs. If Harden is traveling with the team, wearing a jacket and his best outfit, and you see him very active on the sidelines, looking like he wants to be in the game. You see him on the bench clapping and standing up, especially against Giannis and the Bucks, who we know he's definitely got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder for. Like Harden looked like he was ready to go yesterday, and I feel like the Nets are just like, nah, not yet. This doesn't matter. It doesn't matter until it does. Anything else on Harden not playing right now? We're going to come back to it. But I wanted to kick off the news and narratives part, talking about, James Harden. And, how I've seen a lot of fans like, you can't keep saying that this team wins with Harden. And you're right. It's not a guarantee. But we know what kind of effect the bearded one has.
Look, you're right. Obviously, you want the Nets to have that runway, but that's, one of 2 options. The other option is doing whatever you can to make sure that you have them for the playoffs. Because look, we've seen how fragile this team is. And for all of the narratives about the Nets, all of the things that everybody is saying, the fragility narrative is one that seems to be holding true at least a little bit, right? We've seen Kyrie be the most durable player, only missing 9 games for the Nets. KD, obviously out with the hamstring and then the thigh contusion. And then James Harden, the king of durability, has his longest absence of his career this season. So at the end of the day, it's a legitimate concern. So I get it and I understand it. And at this point, I don't have any reason to doubt the Nets because what they're doing it for a reason. But I got to imagine, like James Harden, he wants to go out there. And I think that there's something to be said for giving him a couple of games in the regular season, to step his game up. And I just hope that he's doing it in practice and doing it working full speed drills, because at the end of the day, you can't necessarily, no matter how good you are, just waltz into the playoffs and expect to be at the peak of your possible ability, even for James Harden, even for the player that waltzed in after, sitting on his butt eating honey buns for a couple months, and dropped a triple-double. It's a different atmosphere in the playoffs. And look, health is one thing, and obviously this blows up in our faces immediately if we go out and, he re-aggravates his hamstring or whatever it is. But at the same time, they've only played 7 games together. And for as good as these players are, I just want them to have that runway, because I don't want there to be any excuses. I don't want there to be any reasons to say, oh, the Nets would have won if. I want the Nets to win, and it feels like doing that is probably the quickest way to get the Nets to that championship in the most effective way. But look, I trust the Nets. I trust Sean Marks. I trust coaching staff. I trust the whole coaching staff, the whole organization. So if this is the way they're running it, it's the way they're running it, and it's probably the smartest thing to do. So at the end of the day, that's really all it is.
Yeah, they're a lot smarter than us. The Nets know a lot that we don't. We are just fans, maybe your favorite Fanalysts. We don't know what goes on inside the building. We are just going off of what we see on the court, what we see on Twitter, what we can read. What I'll say is this, right? You talked about Kyrie being the most durable. Harden is the most durable. This dude was trying to play 40 minutes a night, and now all of a sudden he's just not playing. And I know it's not because of him. And I know they said that there was a setback with the hamstring, but this is a parallel to my Yankee fandom. My Yankee fans listening to this that are also Nets fans can understand the next 2 things that I'm saying, right? How much do we believe the organization when they say he had a setback and we're doing this now and we got to do this? Like, we don't know what's going on with the medical reports and the training staff. We just got to take their word for it. That happens with the Yankees all the time. Literally, the Yankees will tell you one thing and then there's another thing going on and people want to know, is Aaron Judge going to play? Oh, he's sore. He's got this and this. And we don't believe them anymore as Yankee fans because they'll tell us one thing, the next thing you know, a guy hits the IL. So that's one parallel with the Nets and the Yankees. And then the last thing before we move on from this is the Yankees think that they're so good that they can flip a switch. And that has been the Yankees' motto the last couple years. And it has blown up in their face in the postseason, in the playoffs, right? That they were just going to flip a switch and be able to beat the top competition. Flip a switch, and our guys are just bigger, badder, better, more higher paid, more talented, superstar players. We can just flip a switch and beat anybody. I feel like the Nets are on that same shit, and it's kind of spooky. You talk about scary hours. Scary hours for us is the whole world getting to watch the Nets not do it, and then we got to live with the fact that it's like, oh, they thought they could flip a switch. They thought they could just put Harden in the game, and that cures everything. Like, watching the game yesterday, we had hella turnovers. I guess Harden would possibly eliminate that, but Kd and Kyrie are turning the ball over. These guys are going to have time to practice. I think on this podcast, we spoke about that last week where the play-in tournament's going to happen, and the Nets will have that whole week to practice, which we're going to need. And then also, we bought tickets for a Talkin Nets event. We got about 18 of us going, and I picked the last Saturday game of the season in hopes that we could see the Big Three play live in Brooklyn. And now it's just like, all right, 7 more games left. Harden's most likely not going to play the playoffs, and that seems to be the plan. And as fans, you kind of just got to rock with it. You got to go with it and hope for the best. But, I mean, we all know, we watch sports. There's been all of these teams with hype in every league every year, whether they are the Pittsburgh Steelers starting off 10-0 at 11-0, and then what can happen will happen, and then you don't make it. Whether it's, in the NBA, the Warriors. Oh, the Warriors will be fine once KD comes back. And KD comes back and pops his Achilles. And now the Warriors ain't fine. That plan didn't work out the way you had it planned. Same thing in baseball with the Yankees. Oh, the Yankees got all of these superstar players. They're in their window. The Yankees will just get it done. They'll get back to the World Series. They were a game away in 2017. Nah, what can happen will. And these are all pro players. And there are a bunch of teams that are going to be gunning for the Brooklyn Nets. And I'm not worried as long as we are healthy and as long as we do get some time to practice. I'm not worried. But I know that what can happen will happen. And if you're not prepared and you just take shit too lightly because you do have 3 of the top 15 players in the NBA, I don't know. There's something to be said about chemistry, right? We spoke on chemistry and we said these guys have chemistry off the court. Hudson mentioned the playoffs. It's a different energy. It's a different level of competition. And yeah, it's a 7-game series. We don't think there's anybody that can beat us in a 7-game series, but mistakes can happen. And, games can be decided by a couple lucky plays late. And I don't know. With the Brooklyn Nets, I'm going to keep it 8 more than 92. I'm going to keep it 100. I don't feel great about the stance we're taking this late in a 72-game season. Still resting guys, still giving guys nights off, being super cautious, not letting Harden's traveling with the team, but not letting him play. In this championship DVD, the story is being written. And there's one way we want this story to go, but if it goes the other way, people are going to harken back to what the Nets were doing in April, what the Nets were doing in May, and not getting prepared to play that high-level basketball that's going to come in June and July. Moving on to the next news and narratives. This is news. The Brooklyn Nets signed Mike James to his second 10-day contract. I love Mike James. I saw some people hating on Mike James. I was like, I didn't think anybody hated on this dude. Like, came from Russia, literally came out of nowhere, plays confident, gets buckets. Hudson, what'd you think when you saw Mike James? He's coming back on another 10-day, and now we've got 2 guys on this team, Alize Johnson and Mike James, that are making us forget about the Andre Robersons, the Iman Shumperts, the Norvell Pells, the Noah Vonleys. We got 2 guys that are decent off 10-day contracts.
It was expected, obviously, right? We saw what he did in that Raptors game especially. But look, he's been able to give us production at the point guard position that we haven't been able to get from the other players that we've brought in, the other players that we have available. And at the end of the day, there's really not a lot of options out there, right? So, he might not have put up the best couple performances these last 2 games, but we need to have someone in that spot, especially if we're going to continue in the regular season for these last 7 games the way that we've been when it comes to resting players sitting out, that whole thing. Someone in the chat asked about Clax playing last night. He was available, but Nash said he's not going to play because Nash wants to ramp him up. That's his whole thing. That's another thing that Nash likes to do. So we need players that we can kind of plug and play in, and it looks like Mike James has been that. So obviously excited to see that for him. Also, I love him because he's on Twitter all the time, and he responds to every single comment. So that's
Mr. Natural 05.
A new
Natural
level is amazing. Every comment he responds to. And just the other day, someone asked, what's the goal here in Brooklyn? And he said to win a championship. That's it. First, second, and third. And look, you need that mentality top to bottom. And if he's got it, and the organization thinks he's got it, and I love it, I'm rocking with it. Played well. Let's keep going.
Yeah, we need him. He's a guy that just comes off the bench. He's got confidence. I like his game, and we have the space for him. Like there's no reason to cut him. Like he's shown us that he can play. He's shown us that the stage isn't too big for him. I like what he's done so far, and I think he earned that 10-day. But you mentioned Claxton, right? Again, we're talking about health and ramp up. Claxton was out on COVID protocols. And yeah, okay. This type of stuff bothers me, bro. This kid is 22 years old. He's out on COVID protocols. He isn't hurt, but he's got to get ramped up too. He's 22 years old. He needs like a ramp up period. We need him. And I would have liked to see him in that game against Giannis And I don't know. I'm not a coach, man. It's tough too because Steve Nash is a rookie head coach. It's his first year coaching, and he's gonna get into some situations. Yeah, but D'Antoni is there, and Jacques Vaughn is there as the right hand man, left hand man. But at the end of the day, it's Steve Nash in front of the media. It's him making the calls, the substitutions, the rotations, and he's very heavy on this. Health, right? Health is the most important thing, having all our guys healthy. Yeah, but what does it matter if all the guys are healthy and they didn't get enough reps and they don't know how to play with each other, and they don't I don't know, man. I'm trying not to go down that rabbit hole that I've been going down that all right, all of this protection, all of this cautiousness, it's at what point is it going to be chains off? At what point is it going to be let these guys run, let them loose, playoffs? And the thing about the playoffs is if you lose in a series 4 times, you're out. And then all you'll be doing is looking back and saying, oh, man, maybe we should have, could have did this. So, hey, the Nets plan, I'm rocking with it. But, that's another example of another guy. I'm like, yo, he's 22 years old. Let him run. Let him rock. He's got to get ramped up. And even with guys coming into the Nets, it's damn, we sign a player and they gotta watch 4 or 5 games before they can get on the court. They gotta get ramped up. Somebody, I would love for the Brooklyn Nets or the HSS Center or somebody to show us a behind the scene look of what these high intensity workouts are like, what these ramp ups are like what do they actually have these guys doing before they get on the court and play basketball? That's all we want to see. We want to see these guys together hooping. And we want to have that sense of yeah, we're rolling into the playoffs hot, because you want to roll into any type of postseason hot. You don't want to go in like we're going in right now, losing back-to-back games and reaching for excuses. And that's why you see some of the fans kind of, having some trepidation, oh, you guys can't keep saying Harden wins the game. And they're right. And that's why we're keeping it real. Let's get into these games now. Game 64 of 72. Friday in Brooklyn. Got the throwback 91 New Jersey Nets jerseys on. I already said on this podcast that KD did not play. And what? We lose to Dame, Melo, Nurkic, CJ, Powell. Those dudes, I will not say I knew we were going to lose, but I knew that those dudes being veterans, those dudes being gamers, those dudes being a tough out. Enes Kanter, we remember what Enes Kanter did to us last time. I knew that they were coming in there, Robert Covington. I knew that they were coming in there oh, we can get a win tonight. And they needed a win. I think they had lost a couple games in a row where they needed that. And it sucks because you're sitting there watching the game, and in the back rows of the bench, Kd Hardin. And the hardest part about it is where right now, as it currently stands, your Brooklyn Nets are 43-22, second place in the East, a half game behind Philly, who owns the tiebreaker. So you're looking at every game yo, we need to fight for that number 1 seed. That's just what your traditional fandom tells you. And the Brooklyn Nets, living completely in Nets world, are we don't care where we land in the standings. We don't care about home court. We don't care about the seedings. We're the Nets. And when you lose a game like that, like I said, second game of a back-to-back, traveling from Indiana with KD sitting out because he's still ramping up. How is KD still ramping up and he's dropping 40? He looks fully ramped up to me. He looks like he's in mid-season form to me. He looks better than the KD of old.
It's just unfortunate because you don't want to read into that game too much because the way the Nets have been playing, that's essentially a schedule loss. And I don't think that we should have scheduled losses as a Nets, the team that we are. But because of the way that we're organized, because of the way Steve Nash is coaching this team, is running this team, we have schedule losses because he's going to choose not to play players on back-to-backs. And that's unfortunate. It's just lame. It's lame as a Nets fan. It's lame. It's lame. Obviously, it'll all pay off once Harden gets back and he's dropping triple-doubles every game in the playoffs. But look, at the end of the day, as a fan especially, it's hard to be in a position where you look at a game and you see it's a back-to-back and you know that KD's not going to play even though he could. And to be able to rationalize in your head, like it's all for a bigger goal. It's all for this greater good. It's all for the playoffs. It's all for a championship. It's just tough. And it sucks because it looked like the team was kind of down because of that. Like Kyrie tried to bring his energy as best he could. He played an average game. He had some highlight plays like he always does. But the rest of the team just looked tired, and we kind of just let them run away with the game. And it's unfortunate because we know that we could have been in a position to win that game had we ran out our full lineup. We know we could have done it. It just came down to the organization saying that winning this game is not a priority. And that's one thing. And this is a fan pod, so we're going to take the fan perspective. The fan perspective right now is not that the organization is wrong to be doing what they're doing. It's not that they're doing the wrong thing. This isn't going to work. They don't know basketball, because of course they know basketball. But at the end of the day, and the thing that sucks the most, being a fan podcast right now, is that we just want to watch them play. We want to watch the Nets put out their best team and win games.
The best Nets team we've ever seen.
We just want to see them play and win games.
Hall of Famer talent-wise, it's the best team we've ever seen. And these plans are great until they're not. Because if it blows up in your face, people are going to come back and be like, yo, maybe you should have fought for the 1 seed. Maybe you should have got these guys on the court together sooner. Maybe you should have just let them run and ramp up. You were super cautious, and then it came back to bite you in the ass. So I don't know. What I was going to say about the Blazers.
That's not abstract.
No, I know. And that's just like, that's me being real. I'm not worried. I'm Nets all day, baby. Nets world. We're winning it. We're playing for a championship. But I'm also a sports fan, and I cross sports. I watch the NFL. I watch the NBA. I watch Major League Baseball pretty heavily. And I've seen this thing happen before where it's like, okay, the favorites get knocked off because their plan doesn't go as planned. Back to the Blazers game. So the Blazers they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row. And the game that they played against us Friday was their 3rd win out of their 4-game win streak. So I knew that they were coming in like, okay, like they're trying to get right. And when you look at the standings and you look at where they are in the standings in the West, they know they don't have a lot of time to play around, right? They're trying to they're 7.
They got the sense of urgency.
Exactly. They're going into these games like, yo, maybe we can play ourselves into right now, they're 10 games back. They're neck and neck with the Lakers, the Mavericks. Maybe if they keep winning out, they can play themselves out of the play-in tournament. So I knew they were coming. I knew they were going to come in and try and win that game. And it being a back-to-back with us and KD not playing. I hate using the term punt game, but it was a punt game and it was a scheduled loss. And I don't want to spend any more time talking about it. Hudson, you got anything else for the Blazers game? Friday night in Brooklyn, we got to hold that L.
No, let's talk about the Bucks game, because at least that game's fun.
Yeah, we're going to go Bucks game, and then we'll take some questions from the chat. So the Bucks game was yesterday, fresher in my mind than Friday night, which, Friday night I just knew what it was. Second half, that's the last thing I'll say about that. The second half starts, and the sense of urgency is not there. The Blazers scored 35, we scored 24, and the game was pretty much over there. And it's like, come on, yo. Like, the game was over. The game was over before the fourth quarter. It's not a good feeling. Fast forward to Sunday. We're in Milwaukee, and obviously it's the 1 versus 3 playoff atmosphere, playoff high intensity, high level basketball. And everybody in there knows what we're looking at. We're looking at the back-to-back MVP. We're looking at Milwaukee's big 3 of Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday, who they went to get. And we're trying to see how we match up now, right? KD is going to play. And Hudson tweeted out KD's going to drop 40. And it's like, we already knew he's going to come out and drop 40. Middleton
that wasn't like a good call, like betting props.
No, that wasn't a ridiculous
That was the easiest
guess.
tweet I've ever sent.
we knew what was coming. Middleton is not going to stop him, but Middleton balled himself. And one thing I was thinking watching that game was, okay, Giannis is gonna Giannis. You cannot stop Giannis from doing what he does. It's just he's an MVP for a reason. If you watch his game, he's a literal freak, the Greek freak. We had no answer for him. We tried to have DJ on him in the beginning, and I'm not mad at DJ anymore, yo. I feel like there's been a change.
Honestly,
it worked for a little while. It's not going to work for the whole 4 quarters, but it worked for a little while. And there has been a change in DJ where I like what I've seen out of him. But then later it's Blake versus Giannis, and then Uncle Jeff at times. And like I said, you take Blake Griffin out of the game. I got to pull the box score up. You take Blake Griffin out of that game late, and there's nothing we could do about it. It's like you said, scheduled maintenance. It's the plan. The plan is the plan. Coming down the stretch there, we had opportunities. The Nets had Kd and Kyrie shoot the ball and miss. I don't know how many times down the stretch there. And we still got an open look for KD to shoot and tie the game and force overtime. And it clanked off the front of the rim and doesn't go down for us. But 42 points out of KD in 40 minutes. I think he's ramped up. Like, I don't know what else people need to see.
He's ramped up. He's up.
Like how much more ramped up do you need this guy to be? Now, Kyrie, let's speak on 20 points for Kyrie. And it was a day game. It was a 3:30 start. Ramadan is still happening. They asked him about Ramadan in the post game, and he said he'd rather keep that stuff between his brothers and sisters that are practicing this, and he didn't want to speak on it. And I felt like, man, maybe it caught up to him this game, because if you're fasting and let's say he woke up and ate before sunrise at, I don't know, 5:30 and hadn't ate since then, it's different than a night game where the sun goes down and he can have like a protein bar or some type of quick meal before the game. Kyrie didn't have it down the stretch. And I hate that people try and criticize him and say like, oh, he tries to play hero. He tries to play hero ball. He ain't got it.
He did hit a clutch three.
Yeah, like
huge clutch three.
He missed a couple, but he hit a big one that we needed. And that is what you were supposed to do. It can't just be everybody in the world knows KD is taking the shot. Kyrie makes those shots too. He's one of the greatest scorers we've ever seen. He's going to have it. And don't forget that like this dude has been fasting, and like that's going to be over, I think, after the next 1 or 2 games.
And Blake I got Griffin, no problem with that either.
No problem
like if we're living and dying by Kyrie, there's worse options, right? Like,
well, yeah, we're not living and dying with TLC or Shamit or, you know.
It's Kyrie Irving. Worse people can take those shots.
We have Kyrie Irving and KD as our 1 and 2 to close games. And if they don't get it done, then it wasn't meant to get done. Blake Griffin, I wanted to give props for. Bouncy Hammer. Blake. Bouncy.
Detroit is confused. They're angry. They're sad. Oh, my goodness. He on the putback dunk elevates over the entire
He's been trying to get one of those. Milwaukee.
He was looking for it too, the couple possessions before then as well. You could see he kept jumping and trying to jump on those rebounds early because I think Milwaukee were acting like they had such a big size advantage they didn't have to jump on rebounds, and so Blake kept sneaking up from behind trying to jump to get those rebounds.
What about that 3-point shot? They're letting Blake take that shot. He's draining a couple of them. He's not afraid.
Getting close to 40%.
In this game, he hit 2 out of 4, and he was 4 for 8 from the field, 50%. I wasn't mad at Blake. I'm like, man, this is a role player. Landry Shamet. Yeah, wish he could have played more. 18 minutes, and I don't want to keep harping on it, but that's what I'm saying. I'm like, yo, the plan, it's crazy, but it's not. The plan is more important than winning. And I don't know, me as a traditional fan of all sports, I just think you play to win the game. Hello, you don't play the game to lose, even if the plan is to keep somebody under minutes. No, you put your best players out there on the court and you play them. But then there's the school of thought where it's like, well, what if you played Blake for 19 minutes instead of 18? And in that 19th minute, he sprains his MCL, and then you don't have him for the playoffs.
Don't play him at all. Then don't play him at all.
Right. Then it's like, what the fuck, bro? That's where we're at as fans. And I think what it is for us Nets fans too, we are coming from the basement. We are coming from being underdogs. We are coming from not having this much talent on the team. So it's like, damn, we have all these superpowers now. We have super strength. We have super speed. We have flight. But we don't even use our powers. It's like we're in a fight getting our ass kicked. Like, yeah, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it next time I get into a fight. No, win the games.
Hiding our power level is really what we're trying to do right now.
Win the games, yo. Win the games, because when we get into a situation, I know that I understand it. The cockiness is what is It's scaring me right now. I'm not worried about what the Nets can do at full strength, but the cockiness of like, yeah, whatever. We don't need the 1 seed. We don't need home court advantage. We don't need to play these guys. Yes, you do. But what do I know? Like I said, I'm not a coach. First-year head coach Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni, Jacques Vaughn, Sean Marks, we trust. They got it, man. And I would have to say I'm not on that level to talk, basketball like those guys. I'm just a fan, and from the fan perspective, that's what you're going to get from Talking Nets. As a fan, we're like, let the dogs go. Let all our dogs go and beat the Bucks. Now, there's also the narrative of, okay, that's the regular season Bucks. We all know what the Bucks do in the playoffs. How do you feel about that, Hudson? Like what we saw out of the Bucks in the Pfizer Forum, in their own arena, they held us off barely by 3 at full strength. But are they not going to be able to rock like that in the playoffs? I don't think so. I mean, we've seen it now plenty of years. Like, it's a different ball game when you get into NBA playoffs.
Look, it took Giannis dropping damn near 50 and hitting those fluke threes at the start of the third quarter to beat the Nets by 3, who don't have James Harden. So, like, on one hand, that's the mentality that I feel like you could take and is a realistic and understandable to take that we've talked about this whole episode. But at the end of the day, you just kind of want the team to win games. You don't want to have to keep making these excuses. You don't want to have to keep saying it's Kyrie's fasting. You don't want to have to keep saying that KD's on ramp up. It's just like, that's what's frustrating, and that's what we've been talking about this whole episode. But look, at the end of the day, all things being equal, and that's really what we have to hope for in the playoffs, that all are equal. That's win for maybe 5 if Giannis really drops 70 in one game. That's really the only chance the Bucks have at the end of the day. They're just not as talented. They're not as good. But you need the Nets players to play, right? Because if it's just KD and Kyrie, as we've seen, it's an evenly matched, awesome series. That series was a 7, is an all-time classic. James Harden plays, it's a different story.
Just James Harden will set a different pace. He'll control the ball. The turnovers killed us yesterday, especially when KD and Kyrie are turning it over. It's like, come on, guys. Like, come on. Can't give a good team more opportunities. Can't give the MVP the ball back like multiple times. I think we had 11 turnovers in the first half, and that continued in the second half. You're not going to win
16
like that.
total. Not good enough. Those are college numbers.
It's not good enough. And it's like, okay, what's the excuse for that? Like, James Harden, yes, will have the ball in his hands, and that will change some. But these guys got to be better than that. Like I said, we had plenty of chances to hit shots late. Like, that game could have either got tied and forced overtime, or we could have won it. We just didn't execute, didn't get it done. But you take solace in the fact that we lost by 3 with James Harden sitting out. And I really do think that when, if there was a series where it's Nets Bucks, James Harden's going to have a chip on his shoulder going at Giannis and them and making sure that, we destroy them. So, hey, there's only a couple more weeks. There's literally only a couple more weeks of us saying, oh, man, why are they like, it is about to be no holds barred. It is about to be everybody go, let all the dogs out. And I'm looking forward to it. So game 65-72, Nets lose to the Bucks 117-114 Sunday afternoon in Milwaukee. We're about to run it back Tuesday night, same place. And then let's talk quickly about the upcoming schedule, because I like to look at the upcoming schedule on these podcasts as we get to the end, so you could start to think about some things right now. Man, when we were looking at the upcoming schedule and it was Celtics Suns, we're like, those are huge games. We got to win those games. Those are big games. Got to win those games. We did that. But then when we're looking at games against the Blazers and the Bucks, Blazers are a team that we could beat if we were at full strength, but we punted. Then we go into the Bucks series where we got to play 2 in their home arena. We lose the first one. I would hope to split, but we can't say what it's going to look like Tuesday. And then right after Tuesday, we travel from Milwaukee to Texas to face the Dallas Mavericks on Thursday night.
That's a team that has something to fight for, a team that has a chip on their shoulder and is playing for something.
That's another good team that is fighting for position in the West and not trying to be in a play-in. Like I just said, they're knotted up with the Lakers and the Blazers. And then after Dallas, we go face the MVP, or the guy that most likely is the favorite to win the MVP, Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets on Saturday. So if we're punting games, if we're sticking to the plan, if the Brooklyn Nets are stuck in Nets world and
That could be two L's.
trying to ramp guys up, you could be looking at a 4-game losing streak after a 4-game winning streak. And that's nothing to beat your chest about. That's nothing to act cool about. That's nothing to be confident about. And that's why this episode is episode 100. Let's keep it 8 more than 92. Hudson Flynn?
Not really too much else to say. But before we wrap up here, I do feel like, Keith, we got a lot of questions in the chat. I think we can run through them quick, just like we do with the voicemails. Get through them. Got to show appreciation to the people in the chat, right? They're listening. They're giving us content. So let's give them some content.
Start us off. Go for it. I guess you can go back to the top.
I'll lead. Let's get it. Yeah, we got Robert Cangista. Yikes. Don't try and make me pronounce names. He says, don't you think they should put Claxton in there yesterday? Already talked about this. Clax didn't play. He wasn't going to play. Nash said before the game that he wasn't going to play. And that's kind of what we talked about this whole episode. That sucks, and we don't love that.
22-year-old kid not playing after COVID protocols being out for a week. He's just out of shape now and might get hurt because he's injury prone. I don't know. Trust in him. Got to trust the organization. And Marks we trust, and Nash and D'Antoni too.
Up next, Max Fine asks, are you worried about the lack of playing time between Kd, Harden, and Kyrie? We talked about this on the episode too. No, we just need them to play. But I'd like to go into the playoffs with the ramp-up time to, get them going to full speed. A car, whenever you're buying a new car, they always say, what's the 0 to 60 time, right? It's never instant. It's never instantaneous, even for the best cars. And we got the best car, but it's not instantaneous. So we got to get there first.
That's a great analogy, Hudson. It's like, even like the thing about the Nets is we know, and we've been saying it, these are high IQ basketball players, Hall of Famers, some of the best ever, blah, 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 blah. Even though they're going to have that week, that second to last week in May to practice, it is not the same practicing against your own teammates as it is playing in the playoffs against another team that's hungry and not trying to go home. I'm just saying, man, I'm keeping it 100 out here. I'm not worried, but it doesn't make me feel 100% positive. Let's go to the next question.
We got Logan Wheelcatch asks, who should be the starting center during the playoffs? Same mentality. I don't think we should have a set starting center. I don't think it should be run like that. I think it should be matchup based. Looks like we're going to play a lot of bigs. So we're probably going to start DeAndre for a lot of these playoff games and see if he can bring that intensity for at least a quarter. And then it's probably going to be by committee, whether it's doubling with Bruce and Alizé, or Blake or Jeff Green or whoever it is. So it's really going to be centered by committee because no one's out. DeAndre, for as what he can bring, and we don't even hate on him that much anymore because there's no reason to. You can't play him for 40 minutes a game, so you got to go by committee with the Nets.
And they seem to have a plan. We're not going to sign another big from what I know, or what I've seen. I don't think there's anyone out there. So it's going to be a mix of maybe DeAndre to start, and then he's getting spelled by Claxton, and then Blake and Jeff Green also play a little bit of center, depending on matchup. It's all matchup based. It's all matchups. We just had a game where DeAndre had a DNP because it was about the matchup. So next question.
All right, let's wrap it up with our last question. Rahola88 asks, if Spence is back, should the Nets play him? Yes, there's no guarantee that he's on the Nets next season. We better use whatever we got of him. And he's driving. He's trying to come back strong quickly for a reason, whether it's getting a new contract or he wants to contribute and win a championship in Brooklyn. If he's ready, we play him 100 times out of 100. The playoffs are not the time to ramp up, not the time to worry about those things, because in 4 games, you could be gone. You could be out of the playoffs. No excuses. No what ifs. Nets have to win. And if Spence is there to help us win, he plays.
If he's healthy after all of this training and posting and talking about coming back this season, remind our listeners that he got hurt against the Hornets in game 3. So that was like late December. He's been working out and talking that talk. If he's ready to go, he plays. He's a guard coming off the bench. I have more faith in Spencer coming back and coming off the bench, even if he is like a step slow. I got more faith in that guy in what could be his last stint as a Brooklyn Net. I got more faith in that guy than Mike James, TLC, Tyler Johnson. Landry Shamit's been great, but I still take Tech guy with a jumper over him because he's a bucket getter and he's a pro, and he was looking like an all-star last year, and he knows the playoffs are a grand stage. If he comes out and balls on that grand stage, everyone will see him and everyone will know exactly what he is, and there will be no questions about his health or his talent. All right. I think that's all we got. Appreciate everybody on YouTube that watched. Appreciate everyone that called the voicemail. We got actually 2 voicemails, but I'm not going to play them. One got cut off. The other one wasn't about the show. It was like an inquiry. So call in and leave a voicemail. 201-870-0461. Call up, leave your name, keep it under a minute. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter is approaching 10K. We'd like to hit 10,000 before the playoffs. It's at Talkin Nets. Also on Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've been doing these shows live. We've been recording live, and I think it's been going, pretty well. So we're going to keep that going. And then as we get into the playoffs, we plan on being live either before, during, or after every game, just giving you guys a place to come talk to other fans and get coverage on the Nets. Subscribe, rate, and review the pod. Now, that's big. As we're growing, we also want to hit 100 reviews by the time we get into the playoffs. Now, that's tough. I think we have 77 reviews. That means we got to get 23 more people to write reviews. And I know how many people listen to Talkin Nets. There's more than enough people downloading the episodes and streaming the episodes for us to get 23 more reviews to get to 100. So do us a solid and do that. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn, that's all we've got for Talkin Nets. Your favorite Fanalysts, Brooklyn Nets fans, just like you guys, ready to see the Nets play and compete and do this thing. And I think there's just like a little bit of anxiety. There's a little bit of uneasiness. Don't worry. We still should be the favorites. But I understand, and that's why I kept it 100 on this episode. I understand where the fans are coming from when you lose back-to-back games, and it's like, damn, we're losing these games not at full strength. We're sticking to this plan. It's all about health, when it should be about wins when you are fighting for the 1 seed. But the Nets have shown us they don't care about the seeding. They don't care about who you want to see play. It's about health and getting everybody to the playoffs healthy. So our world, Nets world, we will figure out, what's going to happen as this stuff happens. Some tough games ahead, but that's fine. Just got to keep believing, and the time's going to pass, man. We're in May, and we're on our way to the playoffs real soon. Hudson, you got anything else for the people out there?
Look, there's going to be things to worry about. There's going to be stresses, but at the end of the day, it's a Nets world. We got to stay confident.
Yeah, confidence is key, but not cockiness, man. That's why I'm like looking at the Nets like, yo, low-key, we're kind of cocky. We're kind of cocky, like, yeah, whatever. We can lose a couple games. Like, the energy I would like to see from the Nets is we are trying to win every game moving forward. If guys are healthy, we're going to play them. We're not going to baby them. It is time to get right because we have one goal, one mission only, and that's to play for a championship. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn. We go hard. All right. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for being Nets fans and watching us be Nets fans and do what we do out here. It's a good time, but it can be a better time real soon, and I think it will be. But I think it hit me watching us lose a game, and even like Harden comes off the bench, we lose a game, Harden comes off the bench clapping, and I'm like, damn, the whole team and like organization mentality is like these regular season games don't matter. We don't give a fuck, and it's like as a fan, we're like these games do matter. We're not in first anymore now, and we don't want to be losing to a rival in the East. That's the 3 seed. Now we're the 2. Like, it's okay, though. Like I said, we're just fans. We don't know as much as the guys that are running the show. And, hey, if they got a plan, all we can do as fans is hope for it. But,
man, I just want to watch him play. I want to enjoy it. I want to watch
exactly,
good
bro.
Yesterday's
We're
game.
Nets fans, bro. We were watching Sean Kilpatrick for a minute. We're watching Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, bro. We're watching Trevor Booker. Like, now we got these stars on the team. Let the dogs go. Let them run loose, or let them loose and let them run wild. But all right, that's all I got. I got to edit this episode and get it out there for the podcast. Once again, appreciate everybody in the chat, and we'll be back after these next 2 games. Later.